What's going on, guys? We're getting ready to do a 5.7 drop on this 2000 Silverado. This is my buddy's truck. He just picked it up not too long ago, and he wants this thing in the weeds. So that's what we're going to do from today. And I'm going to show you the kit we're working with. So he decided to go with Belltech, and this is the kit number we're using. Okay. First thing you do when you get this kit, we found this out the hard way. You need to check to make sure you got the right frame in this truck, because in 2000 there was two different frames that came in the regular cab short box Silverados, and I'm sure the Sierras might be the same. So with the two different frames, it tells you right in the instructions. First thing you do is you got to measure how tall your frame is, because you could have a 5-inch or a 5 1/4. Well, we found out that the kit that they sent us was for the 5-inch frame, when what we have is a 5 1/4. And if I hold this up here, you can see that this will not go around the frame. It's supposed to hug all the way around, and it can't. So we need a different notch kit. Luckily, the guys over at Belltech are awesome to work with, and they are sending us another notch kit, and we don't even have to send this one back. This one isn't of any value to us right now, but you know, it's nice that they're working with us and they're able to send us out the proper parts that we need. So we're gonna have to wait a couple days for the back, but we're gonna get rocking on the front. We've already got the thing up in the air and the wheels off, but yeah, we're gonna get pounding this thing out now. So this kit comes with everything you need. It's got the 2-inch drop spindles, the 3-inch drop springs, and I believe this is a spacer that you can put in. If you don't want to drop the front end 5 inches, you drop this 1-inch spacer in, and you only do a 4-inch drop in the front. New shocks, front and rear shackles, and again, if you don't want to drop the rear 7 inches, I guess these shackles have two different holes that you can hang your spring in, so you can only drop the rear 6 inches if you want. We're going all the way. He wants to dump this thing, so we're going to try the lowest setting possible. And all your hardware comes with a bag full of hardware, U-bolts. This is all for the flip kit for the axle. You know, it comes with everything. Your C notch, right? Everything. So we're going to start with the front end. We've already removed the sway bar link because it was broken on this truck, and it's probably a good idea to remove it anyway. So when we pull down on the lower control arm to remove the spring, we're not fighting the suspension on the other side. But we want to remove the brake caliper first. So there's a couple 18 mil bolts back here that we're gonna zip off so we can take the whole bracket and everything off with it. I'm gonna take this 10 mil bolt out up top, and I'm gonna undo the ABS sensor, like the wheel speed sensor, just because like we're gonna be removing the whole hub. So we wanna leave the caliper hanging. We wanna leave the, like this wire has to come with the hub because we're gonna reuse this hub. So 18 mil on the back, 10 mil up top. Start busting it apart. Okay, so now that I got the caliper and the rotor out of the way, 18 mil takes off the tie rod end. I believe that's an 18 mil for the upper ball joint. And now this ball joint in the bottom has been replaced on this truck. So this nut, this castle nut, might be a different size from a factory one. So, you know, whatever size it is, use it. And we're gonna get this whole spindle assembly off now. So after a couple whacks of the hammer, the spindle falls out. If you don't have a lovely impact like this, you might want to crack these bolts off while it's still in the truck. We do need to reuse this hub. So for me, because I got something like this, I wanted to take it all out and just do it on the floor. But if you don't have one of those or any other kind of impact, you might want to crack all these bolts loose while it's in the truck. But we're gonna get those zipped out now and get them swapped over to the new guy. As you can see, being a 2-inch drop, the whole hole in the middle is moved up much further on the new guy. But everything fits nice once it's in. This could be tricky. Well, the bolts on that hub came out easy, as you could tell. Getting the hub out of the spindle, not easy. As you can tell by the amount of rust on the floor and the size hammers we got going on, we had to whack the piss out of this thing to get that thing to break free, because that, we're pretty sure, is the original spindle or hub that was in that spindle, so it's never been out. And being in Canada, everything gets rusty. Gotta love salt. But we got it out. We got it in the new spindle. So now what we have to do is we're going to, let me get my light on here. We're gonna undo the top nut of the shock. But before that, I'm gonna get a jack under here. We're gonna put a jack under here and compress the spring, zip that nut off, zip the 2 bolts off on the bottom, and then we can lower the jack down and get the shock and spring out all together. So it's just a 14 mil on top, 2 13s on the bottom. We dropped the shock out. Now we're just gonna lower it down. And this is where you just gotta take some precautions, because you don't want to catch a spring in the shin and ruin your afternoon. But I should be able to lower it all the way down without it kicking out. But just stand off to the side just in case. And there, it's all the way down. So I'm just gonna get a crowbar in here, reef this down even further, and then I should be able to just grab the spring and pull it out. So So after sticking the crowbar here and pulling down, the spring pretty much just fell right out. It's really not under much tension at all once it's all disconnected and you lower the jack down. So this is what they give you for the front. You got a 3-inch drop spring. If you don't want to go a full 5-inch drop in the front, they give you this spacer that you'll stick up in here, up in the top, and that turns this into just a 2-inch drop. So you can do a 4-inch drop in the front altogether, or you can do a 5. We're putting this thing in the weeds, so we're getting rid of that. And it comes with a new shock. This all goes together way easier than it comes apart because now the spring's shorter and there's no tension at all. You got to reuse the rubber boot that's on the top of the spring. There really is nothing on the bottom, at least on this truck anyway. If there was, it's long gone. But we're just going to stick this rubber back up in the top and just put it all together the way you took it apart. So we got the shock and spring back in. It's the nicest thing under here now. Everything else is rusty and crappy looking, but we're just going to keep going with it. We're going to throw the new spindle back in, throw the brakes back on, just start connecting everything. So the front's all back together. It goes together pretty easy. And we got the new sway bar link in, and that's a wrap for the front. So pretty simple. Now we're going to move on to the hard part, which is supposed to be the rear. So it's been a couple weeks since we did the front, and we were waiting on the new notch kit for the back, which has now arrived. So I'm going to get it in. So we checked it over. It is the correct one. So the first thing we got to do is we got to get under here. You want to throw a jack. Some people use jack stands. I'm just putting a jack under the diff, jack it up a little bit, and we're going to pull these shocks off. First thing you got to do, pull the shocks off. 21 mil. Oops, sun's in there, but 21 mil should zip them all off. So after you've pulled the shocks out, just put your hardware aside. You will have to reuse that. Now we're going to remove, there's a bracket up here for the brake line with 2 13 mil headed bolts, and there's a plastic clip up here holding your fuel line. So you got to pop that off, pull those 2 bolts out, and then we got to tie those lines back out of the way. Okay, after zipping off those 2 13 mil bolts and popping that clip out, I have a bungee cord pulling everything back away from the frame. You just don't want to cut through it, right? So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my, undo my U-bolts on both sides. I'm going to drop the axle down and then undo the rear hanger here. All right, we're going to undo the rear hanger and drop the leaf springs down out of the way too. That makes it easier to work around the frame when we have to cut it. Well, sometimes it puts up a fight. This thing has never been apart. This truck has spent its entire life in Canada, and those U-bolts right there, even with some WD-40 on them, are not coming off. So I don't even know why I'm trying to save them, because we're cutting them, I'm just going to cut them off. There's new ones that come with the kit. So, because even the breaker bar, it wasn't getting me very far. So I'm just going to cut them. So with a little cutting and hammering, we got it out. It's to be expected when you've got older rusty stuff like this. So to take the hanger out, you're going to want to start with the bottom bolt. The top bolt you can't get out because the frame rail's there. So pull the bottom one out like I did already. And then what I'm hoping is I can just lift this up and over, and there's enough slack with the front that I can move it over and go beside that pocket. And there, I'm underneath. So now I can get to the other bolt and put my new hanger on. But now I've got like the maximum amount of room I can get, so I can do my notch, which is right here. Make sure you got the right side. You'll know if you don't. Yeah. So I feel like someone's screwing with me here. With this kit, we've already been sent the wrong C-notch to begin with because of the two different frames. We did get the correct notch, but what we got different was the template for cutting. The template we got is for the 6612. 6612 is the old notch, the one that they screwed up with giving us. So some of the frames have this dimple that you're supposed to line up with this template. My frame does not have that dimple. There's like a dimple impression right here. It doesn't have it. So I got to try and figure out now what it is, like how I'm going to set this template up. I don't know if this little oval is supposed to line up with that oval. It doesn't explain in the instructions, but I'm hoping that's what it is. So I gotta do a little figuring out. But anyway, I want to take this template, transfer it to the frame. I mean, it can only move so much anyway, because this notch that's cut out in the top of the C notch has to fit around this channel. So I mean, I should be able to get it pretty darn close, and that's what I'm going to attempt to do now. So after laying the template on top of the notch, I marked the center of this cutout area because it's going to wrap right around this channel. So the mark I put, I just made sure it was in the center, and then using a magnet held the piece of paper on there. And you know, I've got, since this frame is a 1/4 inch bigger than this piece of paper, I basically split the difference. And so I got a little bit of the frame sticking out top and bottom, traced it, and now we're going to cut it. So after cutting out the piece of the frame, you'll notice that there's a brace on the back for the bump stop that sometimes your cutting blade can't get all the way through, so Sawzall will finish that off. But there we go, it's cut out. Time to slide that sucker in. We'll drill our holes and attach the backside. Okay, skip ahead to day 2. We got the notch done on the passenger side, and we went ahead and cut 10 inches out of the cross member in the middle of the bed, right above the diff. If you're going to drop it as low as we're dropping it, it's recommended that you do so. It's also recommended that you go on Belltech's website and order, they have a bolt-in C-notch for the bed as well. He doesn't plan on putting any weight in the back of this bed, so we're not worried about it collapsing in that one spot. But it is recommended that you bolt in their little C-notch. We're not going to bother doing that. But next is, we've already taken off the shackles off both sides. So now we're going to attempt to get the axle above the leaf spring without taking the front off, and then we'll attach our new shackles and get everything all bolted up in place. So as you can see, all I ended up doing was removing this one 13 mil bolt for the e-brake cables, and you can push the e-brake cables down under the fuel tank, and that allows you, you can slide the diff, like the whole axle, to the passenger side. And you do have some movement in these leaf springs to pull them from side to side, and we were able to pull them over and get them underneath the axle. And then same thing, we slide the axle back this way, and hopefully you have a buddy with you that can pull the axle up and over the leaf spring on the other side. So it actually wasn't that bad to do. So we had left one of the 9/16 bolts loose up here. Let me just lay on my back here. We left this one loose so that we can attach the this bracket when it came time. Now that we have the axle above the leaves, it's time. So we're gonna get this bolted into there first, and then get all this stuff put up in place. Okay, once you get your hanger all in, 2 U-bolts, the saddle, and the bottom plate all goes together relatively easy. And that was probably the easiest part of this job. So the last thing we had to do was, the kit came with shock extensions, so we just dropped those in, put the new shocks on both sides. And then a problem that we've had with this truck is we had a broken leaf spring on that side. My buddy got a used leaf spring, we put it in, and it's got more of an arc to it than this side. So now the truck's gonna sit uneven. We're gonna go ahead and just order new leaf springs altogether for this thing. But for today, we're gonna just put it on the ground the way it is. And what we did notice was we were gonna try and offset the ride height, because we were under the understanding that you could change the ride height by 1 inch by using this lower hole, but you can't, because the leaf spring hits the back side of the hanger right here, and you can't actually utilize that next hole going down. So we couldn't adjust the ride height in the back. You want a 7-inch drop, you got a 7-inch drop. But that's all, everything's done now. We're ready to put this thing on the ground. All my U-bolts, I've torqued them all to 90 foot-pounds. That's what they recommend. And we're ready to see what this thing looks like. Obviously, it's going to look a little wonky with one side sitting a little higher than the other, but we're going to have to deal with that for now. So we got the truck back on the ground, and it's low. We had to put blocks of wood under the wheels just so I can get my jack out. And as you can tell, the front's tucking a bit. And in case you're wondering, these are 22s, and the tire that he's running, it's upside down, but it's a 265/35. And he purposely wanted a smaller tire just in case he had clearance issues. But like, I can barely get my finger. I can barely get my finger between the tire and the inner fender. Like, it is very close. Let's check this side. Yeah, like I can barely get my finger in there. So he might be, his tire might be polishing the inside of that fender a bit when he hits a bump. But the back, definitely you got more room. Like, not much room, but like I can get my finger up in there, but you know, there's not a ton of clearance. So it's a good thing he went with a smaller tire. We may have to roll this fender a bit. And what I was saying before about the truck leaning to one side, it's really not bad at all. Like, this side, maybe half an inch or 3/4 of an inch lower than the other side. Just because one spring's more tired than the other. But that's even closer. Woo, very close. So we'll probably have to roll these fenders a bit. But other than that, in case you're wondering how to do a 5/7 drop, we kind of walked you through it. And what it looks like after, it's low. Like his skirt in the front fits my fist. That's about it. So because of the clearance issues that we're having with this, we do have to do a little bit of fender rolling in the rear because we don't want to risk damaging the rim, cutting a tire, wrecking the fender. And in the front, we kind of sat on it for a bit and decided with only having like 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch clearance between the tire and the inner fender, we're probably going to put the 1-inch spacers that came with the kit in the front. As cool as this looks, sitting this low, drivability around town, going in and out of parking lots, uneven surfaces, stuff like that. He doesn't want to damage anything. He doesn't want to wreck his rims or tires or anything like that. So we won't take it for a drive tonight, but hopefully this video helps you if you decide you want to drop your truck like he did with his, and what a 5/7 Belltech kit will look like if you dropped as low as it can go, which is what he did. And you know, if you have 22s that you're throwing on, this is basically what you're going to get. So like I said, we're going to put the 1-inch spacers in the front, and the back we're going to have to roll the fender a bit. But other than that, that's it for this project. And you know, hopefully he enjoys it.